Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you so very much. This is the MFer podcast number 12. 12th episode of this podcast. Thank you for hanging out. If this is your first one, welcome in. Normally it's just me and Fuzzy Luke. I've chosen to change my surroundings a little bit. I've taken my spaceship and I've left Earth. I've
Ah,
left Earth until the woke leaves. Uh, but today I do have a guest, and joining me, very lucky to have Steph. You know her as my nerdy home, big on geeks and gamers. Welcome, Steph.
hi. I do like your background. I think that's funny. You left Earth.
Yeah, I'm gonna orbit it until
Yeah.
content comes back, and once content comes back, I'll return. But right now, I'm off. I'm off the planet. It's just me and Luke in this spaceship.
Very cute. Luke with a big belly. I saw your
With
video on Instagram.
I was sitting here and he just had like this, just all belly just out, and I was like, "That's hilarious." It was like those videos, dude. Those are the best viewed videos I have.
Are you a cat?
Yeah, Luke. Yeah, for sure. He's definitely the star.
Yeah.
I'm just glomming onto his fame. So you were just doing Toxic Femme
I
with
was, yeah.
the lovely Nina. I love Nina. She's great.
Yeah, she's really funny and really kind. And yeah, they invited me on for a couple of episodes, and I'm like going to be a temporary permanent guest.
That's great.
So,
That's really
if that
cool.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, Nina's a worker. She's very consistent. She does like all the right things, and I
Mhm.
watched her just grow. And then her on the real BBC, it's like she's doing really well, and she's a great person. So it's like,
Yeah, she's a great streamer. Like she
mm-hmm.
can stream and just talk and talk. She's a great streamer. I can maybe do like 2 hours tops, but yeah,
Yeah.
she's got a lot of stamina when it comes to streaming.
Well, what's that show that you guys do with on Geeks and Gamers? Is it
Oh,
when?
Tuesday night's main event. Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
not talking the whole time though.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have to. I pretty much like I'll inject an opinion here and there, but for the most part, I'm working in the back. Well, not off camera, but like I'm working. I'm taking timestamps because when the show is over, I edit a lot of the videos that
Okay.
go out on the GNG channel.
So how long have you been with Geeks and Gamers?
Surprisingly, not long. I know a lot of people were like, "She's not a part of the team." Not long, and I can't remember exactly when either. I want to say like maybe 4 to 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's recent, but I've been working with like Jeremy and Ryan and Jay for a long time. But I just wasn't like ready to be on the team. Um, so like once the time came, like in my life where I was able to like really put forth like the work and the effort to like its max potential, then I was like, okay, I'm ready.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean they're great guys. I feel like I've seen you in their Instagram as long as I've been following Geeks
Oh
and
yeah,
Gamers.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always recognize you, and then saw you. Met you at the first Vegas meetup, and
hmm
then of course again in Dallas. And so how did you were you just like a fan, or do you know those guys personally, or how did you end
I
up
know
like?
them personally. Yeah, I knew them personally. But I was connected with them like as a mod, so I'd mod like a lot of their streams, and that was pretty much as far as like I could work. Would just kind of like be there and stream because I was working on something else as well. So what again, like once I had like the time to spare and put in a lot of work because I do work a lot, not just for G&G, but like I do a lot of work for Ryan and a lot of work for Salty Cracker as well. So I'm pretty busy. I keep pretty busy. Um, so yeah.
That's cool. Well,
hmm
I mean, whenever I stream with you, you seem like you have like well thought out and articulate opinions that seem like you're really grounded, like you genuinely believe them. And
Oh
like
yeah.
I like that. It's like it's cool. Like I stream with so many different people, and we all have our opinions, but I always like yours seem very well fleshed out and thought out, and you're like concise. I like the way you communicate your ideas. And judging by your backdrop, I guess lifelong nerd.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. Were you
Yeah.
a comic book fan when you were a kid?
Um, yeah, I was. I would read a lot of comic books. I love DC, like DC fan at heart. Um, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uber geek.
Uber geek. Yeah. I was
Uber geek.
comics. I read a bunch of them when I was a kid. I used to read a lot of Punisher, a lot of Spider-Man, dabbled in a little bit of X-Men. But then I just sort of like lost touch with it, and then didn't really come back into it until actually relatively recently.
Hmm.
Really since kind of discovering the fandom, like listening to Gary and listening to all these other, because I was an actor for 15 years, and I was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, and I was in the belly of the beast when a lot of this like woker stuff like really began to emerge. And it was like, I saw it in the content, but I also saw it in all these scripts that I was reading. I mean, we'd read them in class, and I'd audition for them, and it was just so much of this agenda
Yeah.
everywhere, and it was driving me crazy. And I remember for me, the tipping point was when Game of Thrones went bad.
Oh man. I yes.
That was it for me. Like when that happened, I was just like, I can't with this. I need to go find other voices that are talking about this now. Like I couldn't emotionally handle it. And the
It's
first, oh,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Keep
No,
going.
please. No, I was just gonna say
It's
that
something for everyone, right? Something for everyone. It's something that you like, that you're invested in, and you're just kind of like, this, it can't just be me.
exactly. That
Yeah.
was exactly the feeling I had. And the first person I found was Critical Drinker. And his videos and his insight and his reviews were so scathing. It was like I found a new drug that I
Hmm.
loved, and it was like these YouTubers. And so I watched every video Critical Drinker ever put out, and then from that I think I found Mauler next, his like Star Wars reviews, and I was just like, there's people out there like me, they get it. It was like being reborn. And then I found Gary, and then Gary was the one I probably latched onto the most. I think like I really enjoy all those guys, and I still very much do. But Gary's the one that I identify with as a guy and his opinions, and he's sort of like his broad spectrum look at a lot of this stuff. And that's when
Right.
I really started to see that it was like, oh, because when he starts talking about the comic book stuff, it's like I had no idea it had permeated comics to this level. That was all news to me, and so that was such a huge revelation. And then because of that, I've just gotten much more like involved, and then like began to invest in comics because I'm listening to all these guys who are so passionate about this medium that I kind of just wrote off. And then when I started getting into it, I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like there's such a world here of new content, of things that are good, and these other dudes who like have such like a critical eye. And I was just it's been a really cool thing. How did you find it? How did you get involved?
Um, I was just gonna say Mahler has some really good Game of Thrones videos too. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
you've seen them,
Oh
but
sure have.
yeah, he has. And then there's another channel. I'm looking for it right now because I know I'm subscribed to him, but he doesn't really put out a lot of content. But when like all the Game of Thrones stuff was happening, I'm trying to find his channel. Um, he was also putting out a lot of stuff. God, what is his name? I can't find it. I'll let you know. I'll find it. But
Okay.
how, like I said, everything was like a tipping point for a bunch of people, right? So yours was Game of Thrones. Mine was like a lot of us, right? Mine was The Last Jedi, and I was just like, this is terrible. This is like Twilight. What is this? This isn't Star Wars. Um, so I actually found uh, EFAP. I found Mahler first.
Really?
Yeah, and I would watch EFAP all the time. I would listen to Mahler. I have some of his. Honestly, I've watched Mahler's videos like over and over and over. For me, it's something that I can listen to over and over again. But I would honestly like listen to Mahler and just put him on a playlist and just like listen to his thoughts over and over again. And then I watched EFAP, and I would watch EFAP a lot. From EFAP, I found uh, World Class Bullshitters.
Okay.
Um, and then I believe it's World Class Bullshitters. I'm pretty sure. And then from there, I found Jeremy and G&G, and then from G&G, I found Ryan and Drunk 3PO, and that. And then that's when I found Gary as well. And so I started watching Friday Night Tights, and I just started watching everybody's streams because it was just like, wow, just like you, like, holy crap, I don't. Everybody is upset at Star Wars. Like, it's not just me. It isn't Star Wars, and I'm right to like know that like it's not Star Wars. It doesn't feel like Star Wars at all. It feels like horrible fan fiction, or someone's like fan fiction coming to light, and it's terrible. And so I started watching a bunch of their streams. And then the first person that I streamed with was John Talks, and that was like when he was streaming. Now he's like he does very like political things and a lot of shorts, and it's so good. He's found his niche, niche, niche.
Niche? Yeah.
Yeah, but I streamed with him, and then I went on Jay's channel, Drunk 3PO's channel, and we would stream every week. So yeah, I wanted to just keep talking, especially when, or to actually just start talking on Twitter, on YouTube, because I would see a lot of like the pushback from the industry, you know, and I would see them saying like, oh, it's just like toxic men. And it's like, no, it's actually not, because I'm here. And then, oh, it's just like toxic white men. It's like, I'm not white and I'm not a man and I have the same issues, you know. And I would see like that whole thing as they would try to pit fans against fans, and it's ridiculous. And then the whole thing where it's just like, I'm a woman and I was never accepted in a comic book shop. It's like, you're wrong, or you just are lying, you know, because I would go to comic book shops all the time. And what's funny is that like you found the fandom and you started reading comic book. I actually stopped reading comic books just because of how trash they are now. I think I stopped getting my weekly pulls like maybe a year and a half ago. So
you're getting pulls and all. You're a real fan.
Yeah, I was getting pulls and everything. I have like my boxes full of comics and everything, but I just like I stopped because it was just it was really bad. I felt like I was wasting my money, and I once they started going in a direction, I was just like, no, I'm not going to support this at all. Yeah, I still can't find that guy's channel.
I mean, you know, when you find it, you can let me know. But Star Wars was a big one. I think for me, I went into Force Awakens with a lot of trepidation as it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was pretty anxious about it to begin with, just because I wasn't really a prequel fan. Like I watched those. They came out when I was in high school. And so I watched them and really liked them, I thought. And then as the years went on and more analysis came, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Like I don't really get into the EU, but the original three, I've watched countless times. I couldn't possibly put a number on how many times I've watched them and how much they are a part of me as a person. And so over the years, the prequels, I was just kind of like, all right. So then these new ones come out and I'm like, I'm hopeful, but I'm not, you know, I'm going to see how this goes. And I remember it was so weird. I just started dating this girl and we were on the phone, or I didn't even go on a date. We were just kind of feeling each other out. And it got into some like weird feminist argument or something. It was something about like the pay gap or whatever. And I was like, that's not real. You know, that's not real. She's like, what? And like, we just like over the phone. And I was just like, all right, I'm going into this movie. And I remember like, it was like, I was like, oh no. Like as soon as I got in the theater, I was like, what if this is bad? And then I remember being like about 15 minutes in and I was like, oh no, this is bad. Oh no, I have to sit here for 2 hours and watch bad Star Wars. This is going to suck. So once that happened and it was bad, I felt like I was like a Russian agent in America or so. I felt like a person in a completely different culture because everyone around me was in love with it. And I was just like, that was terrible. That was awful. But it was a secret that I couldn't share. You know, it was like everybody loved it, and I was just like, no, it wasn't good.
You're talking about like the prequels or the
Force Awakens.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah. Sorry if I didn't make that clear, but yeah, it was like that's when I went into the Force Awakens and just was like, I was so turned off. But at that time, like I was already so jaded that I was like, whatever. And then. And so I don't know. So it was like this weird like duality. So Star Wars affected me like pretty profoundly, but I was almost just like, I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to deal with it. I'm not going to get, you know, upset or whatever. Like, I'm just going to let everyone else, you know, talk good about it. But for the fandom at large, I think a lot of people, either they had their blinders on or they just wanted to like it or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think they were kind of like, please give us good Star Wars. And then when The Last Jedi came, that was really like the atom bomb that I think shook up so much with people and fans.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think like I was hopeful because I was like, well, shoot, Disney's buying it. That means we're just gonna get more Star Wars. Period.
Yeah.
You know. So I was really excited and I was hopeful, and I did like leave the Force Awakens with, I was like, okay, that's not bad, but at the same time, you're just copying A New Hope. You know, so it's just like it's A New Hope, but with a girl. But it's not bad. Okay, let's see where they go from here. And then The Last Jedi was, and I was just like, oh wow. So it just undid a lot of stuff from The Force Awakens. So it's kind of like, well, okay, yeah. So The Force Awakens wasn't a good movie. I mean, look at what this is now. And then they tried to clean it up with The Rise of Skywalker, and it was just terrible. And it just showed, flat out that like there's no plan, absolutely none. And how embarrassing is it for this large corporation to just sort of be like, well, we'll hire you and see what you can do, and then we're gonna hire a different director, and he's just gonna shit on everything you did. We'll bring you back. Please clean up this guy's mess. It's terrible. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for them because there was no clear focus. No
No.
clear focus. It was just like, we want to put this out so we can, one, push a feminist agenda, and two, make money on merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yeah,
You know,
and really in a
glory be
cheap,
damned.
cheap way. Like, you know, Lucas has always been obsessed with making merch, or like making merch and making money on merch, especially after it made him like a billionaire or whatever. I can
Yeah.
understand that. And like he, for the prequels, he created all these new ships, but he created all these new ships because those were like, oh, these are new ideas. You know, like as much as I'm not a fan, I can appreciate them for having at least their own vision. The what Disney did was they were just, it was so callous. We're going to kill off all the old characters. We're going to build these new ones so that we can make all this merch. And oh, also C-3PO's got a red arm for some reason, so we can
Yeah, just
license
because of
that.
merch. Hmm.
It's just, it was so transparent and thin, and really speaks to the hubris of Hollywood. You know, me and Vigilante last night, we did we recorded the Culture Crime Fighters, and we ended up pretty much walking through every single Marvel movie from phase 1, 2, and 3. You know, and just sort of reminiscing and which ones we liked and which ones we didn't, and this, that. And you know, you see the evolution, right? Like it was kind of a long shot when they first started. When you did Thor and Captain America and Iron Man, they were gambles at the time. You know, they were relatively obscure characters, not guaranteed to bank,
Yeah.
and they ended up being hits. And they ended up finding a huge audience. And then Marvel just became this juggernaut to the point where it was like, do they make any other movies? I guess we just get Marvel. And then you see the hubris. You see the hubris start to come in with Captain Marvel, and you start to see it with all these other movies. And they basically feel like, and I think they've thought the same thing with Star Wars, they could just make anything,
Anything.
and we would line up like a bunch of
Hmm.
drones, mindlessly purchase it forever. And that's where I think that rift, that the kind of catastrophic rift that has come in, I think is pretty much irreparable when it comes to fans. But you also see, like, look what it did end up creating. Look how passionate people really are. It did end up creating like these I mean, Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic, Mall, like these are becoming like empires, like
Right.
inside of YouTube. You know, they're
Hmm.
becoming institutions almost. I mean, a lot of these, we're getting years and years past the first flare up. I mean, what, Gary's at over 500,000 subscribers. You know, like that's significant for a guy who's not just like, hey guys, the new Disney thing, or Mr. Beast, like, hey, I'm eating a lot of food, or whatever the
Yeah.
YouTuber kids do. So it's like, to me, it speaks to just genuinely how passionate the fans are, but also just how much, like, there's a lot of people who just are not taking it lying down. And as much as it sucks that content is in the situation it is right now, I think it's a really admirable indicator just how many like passionate and like principled people there are really in the fandom.
Yeah, and I think that like not only that, but it's kind of we see the channels grow just because, um I think it's Gary who says it, like if they haven't gotten around to the thing that you love and messed it up, they'll get there. They're coming. They're
Sadly.
coming for whatever you love, and they're going to rip it apart. And that's what we're seeing right now with the Rings of Power.
Hmm.
You know, and a lot of channels are taking off because Tolkien fans are like, I don't think so. I
Yeah.
don't think so. You're not going to mess with Tolkien's work, and they are, and they're ruining it. And It's going to, it's going to go down as like the most expensive failure in history, because it's like millions a show,
Yeah.
millions and millions of dollars a show,
And they
and
have to
it's
make something
already
like
getting ripped
and they have to
apart by
make
fans.
something like 20 episodes a season or something like that. It's not even like a normal run. It's something like every season they have to make like 20, 25 episodes.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a failure. People are already pushing back on it. People are already hating it, and they're tired. And people are also tired of, oh, we're just gonna blame the fans, the fan backlash. They don't like that there's a woman. They don't like that there's a black dwarf. They don't like that there's a person of color over here and over here. And it's like, no, you can't fall on those excuses anymore. You're taking something that we love, and we're tired of it. We're tired of you bastardizing all of these works, all of these pieces of art, everything that we love, and you're just bastardizing just to push a message. And it's a message that doesn't need to be pushed. We just want good entertainment.
And the thing is, they're going to continue to hide behind that representation thing, but it is not about representation, because me and Vigilante the other day, we had a comedian, this guy from Austin, Gabe Davis. I met him. I seen him around town, and I saw him at a bar one night. I'm like, hey, you're that comic, right? And we ended up having a conversation about comic books. Invincible came up, and then something else. And then he started talking about basically representation in comics. That kind of conversation came up, and he has like the opinion that it's a good thing, and this, that, and the other. But the interesting part about the way he communicated his ideas was it was pretty friggin' reasonable. And so I was like, maybe I talked to Vidge. I was like, maybe he should come on the show and we can have a conversation with the guy. And he did. And I still don't agree with him, but when I heard it from his perspective, it seemed completely rational. He wasn't just saying, it wasn't so callous. Like he has his ideas and his feelings on it. And it's like, no, some of those actually make sense. And then through talking with him, I was like, oh, but even his ideas are not being mirrored in this content. It's not about representation, because if it was, Eric July wouldn't be a threat. Larry Elder wouldn't be the black face of white supremacy. They don't actually give a shit about any kind of representation unless you're down with the agenda. And that's what it's really about.
That's what it's about. Yeah, it's about the agenda.
It's nefarious, because they're basically using this representation thing as human shields.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see what's going on with like Ezra Miller, right?
What is going on with Ezra Miller?
I mean, see what's going on with like Ezra Miller, and because he represents like the right things, the things that they back, there's no repercussions for the things that's going on with him. He just gets away with it.
It's crazy.
And then the same thing with Moses Ingram. Before Kenobi even came out, they knew the show was going to be terrible. They knew that what they were creating was awful, because it's not a show about Kenobi. It's a show about Moses Ingram's character, and I can't even remember what her name, Reva. It's a show about Reva and Reva's past and everything that has to do with Reva. They marketed it as a show about Kenobi and Vader, and it wasn't about. It was just Kenobi is taking care of Leia. Leia was in the previews for it, but they made it seem like, oh, it's going to be Vader and Kenobi and Luke. And it wasn't. It was Kenobi and Leia, and then Reva is there chasing after them, and it's her story and her struggle. And they made Kenobi look like an idiot. And now what's going to come off of that? A Reva show. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you're going to tear down one character, a character that we all know and love and respect, and make him look like an idiot in this show to push another show about with your newer, more diverse character, and it's not a well-written character. It's not a well-written character at all, and they know that. And so, like, even before the show came out, they had their pre-built argument in there that, like, oh, people just don't like it because of Reva. And now look at the character that she's getting backlash. They had the Kenobi star Ewan McGregor come out and be like, I stand with Moses. We all support Moses. And it's like, it's not about Moses. This character is just terrible. Nobody's saying that the actress herself is awful. The character is terrible. But because they know that they have shit writers, because they know that they have, they don't want to take responsibility for that. They don't want to tell you out front, like, yeah, writing is shit. They don't want to do that. There's no accountability for anything. It's just like, oh, you must not like women. You must not
And
like that this woman of color is in the show. And it's like, no, actually, that's not the reason. It's just, it's, it's a horribly written show.
yeah. And the worst part about it is how nefariously they exploit fan nostalgia in the marketing.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure. That's
that
like,
Obi
yeah, that's a fan nostalgia is real. They market to fan nostalgia because they're counting on the feelings. They're counting on that feeling that you get and you remembering that, when you're a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, look, it's Luke. You saw it in The Mandalorian, like when Luke showed up, right?
hmm
Everybody forgot how terrible The Mandalorian was, and they were just left with that feeling of Luke Skywalker came back. Oh my gosh, he looks amazing. Look at what he's doing. They were just left with that feeling of nostalgia, right? They
Yeah.
just want you to remember that. Remember how you felt. Remember when you were a kid and you loved Luke Skywalker, and that makes you forget how terrible everything else is.
That's exactly what it's doing. And with the Obi-Wan trailer was a terrible example of that because they used the prequel music, which I said, even how I feel about the prequels, I still got jazzed from that. The feeling was still inside me.
Yeah.
They show Obi-Wan on Tatooine and they see him looking in on a young Luke, right? So it's like, even though it's going to suck, that trailer still stirs up emotions in you because it's all those things that you have such attachments to. And the worst part is they know that
Mm-hmm.
that's what they lead with, but they will not create the product you actually want.
Nope.
That's the darkest part. If they were just like oblivious to what fans wanted and just, was like, hey, you're all going to love Reva. And they were like, hey, we don't. And they're like, oh, okay, our mistake. They're like, we know they're not going to love Reva. So we're going to mask with the thing that they do love. And then we're going to bait and switch. And then when they don't like it, we're going to call them racist. And it's like,
Yep.
what the fuck is this business? What is going on in Hollywood? I don't understand. Why you're like anti-fan?
Oh, absolutely.
How can
They
you?
are. Yeah.
What other business operates like that?
They absolutely are. It's like businesses should be in the business of making money. And in order to make money, you have to cater to the customer. And right now they're not catering to the customer because they're not giving the customer what they want, which is good entertainment that, takes you out of what you're going through, is legit escapism and something that you love. And they're just not doing that because they want to inject whatever they stand for into the media, and it already takes you out of it. There's no real escapism anymore. That's why things like Top Gun Maverick and The Terminal List, it's like those are like rarities because it's like, holy shit, I was entertained the entire time and there was no agenda. There was just good storytelling. But they'll take those things that don't have an agenda in it and they'll flip it and they'll be like, oh, this is just made for like conservative people.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's actually just good entertainment. Just because it doesn't have some underlying message there doesn't mean that it's just made for like white conservative men.
It's ridiculous. And I live in Austin. It's a pretty woke town. And even the people around here that I know that are pretty activisty loved Top Gun. It's not a divisive film. You don't have to have voted for Trump to enjoy it. It's just like a good movie. And I saw yesterday that Top Gun just passed Titanic in box office totals.
It did. Imagine you make a good film and you get rewarded.
Isn't that crazy?
I know.
Huge
And
rewards.
Tom Cruise, as crazy as the man is, he is a professional when it comes to movie making.
Mm-hmm.
He's in it for entertaining the fan. Imagine being in it for entertaining the fan and thanking the fan for coming to the theater.
It's like it's so simple. Like I was making the comparison with Vidge last night. I was like, could you imagine if you had like a restaurant and you advertise like juicy, delicious steaks, and then when people come in and you serve them grass and dirt, and they're like, I don't like this. It's like, well, you must be racist.
Yeah, exactly. There's no other business that does that, but Hollywood, sure, it's like by every single thing that's pushed out right now. That's basically what it is.
It's insane. It's utterly insane. It's when you just talk about it in those terms, you're like, yeah, like it's like we've been so conditioned to like believe that Hollywood's like better than us that we kind of like, oh well, okay, I guess, it's like when it was all first still going on, like And I would hear about that, and I would get all this pushback when I was in LA from like these actresses and these people around me and this, that, and the other who would be, always accuse me of sexism for, not going along with the plan. For a while there, I was thinking, I was like, maybe I am sexist. Like, I don't know. Like, I have these ideas. Like, how come,
Wow.
it was like, it got so in my head. They're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you hate women. And it's just like, you think about it, I was like, wait, no, I don't. Like, hold on. Like, I know that I don't. Like, women have been some of the most important people in my entire life. There's so many people that I love more than anything. Okay, no, you can't just say that. It's like I had to walk myself through that because it was like, it's so ubiquitous. It's such like a consolidated effort with that agenda, and they keep going and they keep just
Yeah.
hammering it, and it's done a number on a lot of people.
It's like Hollywood is the restaurant that you mentioned, right? They're the restaurant making the food. The waiters are like the journalists that are calling you racist and sexist and homophobic and yelling at you.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
That's a
they
good
have the
analogy.
journalists. The journalists are the ones that like are also on that, and movie reviewers and shills. They're also on that woke train, and they're shilling for Hollywood. And saying the right things and writing the things that Hollywood wants them to write,
And then making hit pieces on the guys.
and then making hit pieces. Exactly.
It's,
Yep. On the ones that don't fall in line. They're not falling in line, and their channels are just getting bigger and bigger. And how dare they?
Mm-hmm.
How dare they grow?
Yeah. How dare they go start their own community, which is what we advised them to do. Then it worked, and then screw them. It's like,
how dare they have all of these fans and all of these people who follow them that all agree and think that
right.
A whole diverse group of people agree with them. How dare you? How dare all of you?
How dare you actually be the thing we say we are?
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, I think Rippaverse ships soon, if I'm not mistaken. I think Isom
really?
1, right? It's early August, as I recall. I think it's something about the 11th or the 12th.
Ooh, yay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Pretty pumped.
Yeah, me too. I want to read it. I want to get it and read it right away. I'm so stoked.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to be in Vegas when it gets delivered. That would be.
I hope not. We probably will be. Dang it. You're
right?
absolutely right. We probably will be. Yeah, we're going to be in Vegas.
Everyone's going to be in Vegas like, ah.
I know. I wonder if Ripa's going to be there. Like, you better bring some so we can read it. We're not going to be at home when they ship.
Yeah, I hope he is going to be there. It was cool meeting him in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great dude. I'm I check him out. I'm not like the biggest fan. I know Vigilante's like not that I'm not a fan. I just it's like there's only so much content you can consume
in a day. I know.
Yeah, exactly. But I know Vig has been I've been a fan for a long time, and it's interesting. This whole YouTuber journey, this whole kind of like Star Wars became propaganda and everything's propaganda, really opened my eyes. Like this was like my gateway into learning so much about politics, the political structure, like communism, communist influences, why it's so universal right now, like what's being taught in colleges, like it really tied so many things together that I kind of only partially understood here and partially understood there. But like them fucking up Star Wars, man, they could have kept me blind for the rest of my life if they just didn't ruin Star Wars.
Right? You see it in one place, and then you start to see it everywhere.
Yep.
You start to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
How can they be getting away with it like everywhere? Nobody's just saying anything. Nobody's saying anything. Everyone's just going along with it. Mindless drones.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, Steph?
Here.
You grew up
in yeah.
Okay.
Texas,
right on. Because I grew up in New Jersey, and I think I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 37. So when I was a kid, like my education, I think it was just kind of standard public education. You know what I mean? You got like kind of the cheery story of Columbus when you were a kid, and then when you got older, you realized it's a little bit more complicated.
I know, yeah.
But then, you kind of got this sort of like, you did get like the Constitution was good, and this, you got this sort of just standard American education. Well, and then, when I went to college, that's when you start getting all the critical theory stuff. That's when all the other new ideas start coming in. And turns out America's actually the worst country you've ever been in, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't seen that until college. And then when I moved to LA and like everybody was like that, I was just like, oh, well, they must have all just gone to college and gotten radicalized. Well, I work with a dude who's from the Bay Area, and
Hmm.
he was telling me that from grade school, they were getting that sort of critical theory education from day one.
Oh, wow.
They never heard a nice thing about Columbus. They never heard a nice thing about America. They never heard, all they ever heard were all the bad things, slavery. Like it was drilled into their heads that America and was it Christian white males, whatever the villain is, are the worst people on the planet. Like they've been getting that since they were children, which
Wow.
I didn't know.
That's interesting.
Right?
My education was all, I went to private school,
Oh, okay.
from, yeah, all through elementary, all through high school, and I even went to a private college. So, I didn't get any of that. Not even in college. It was very much focused on the curriculum. The classes that you're taking are very much focused on the curriculum. There was no outside opinion or influence. Uh, Everybody was very professional. That's why I am so surprised when I see all of these videos about teachers bringing all of their political opinions into a classroom, because I've never experienced that. Never. Not even in college. So I'm shocked by the fact that that is happening, and at the rate that it's happening, and the fact that like they're not getting any pushback, and it's shocking to me because I never experienced anything like that. The teachers always taught what was in the curriculum. Um, they never steered from it. And I was just book taught, like teach you in the books. Like here's the lesson, we're learning it today. This is what's written, and we're teaching you and testing you, and that's it. There was no stray from anything. The teachers never brought in their political opinions. The teachers never brought in what they believed in, ever.
Yeah.
I would say that like the only time that someone ever brought in anything was, during theology classes,
Mm-hmm.
because that is just all about your, religious beliefs and all of that. So that was the only time that anyone ever talked about like, well, what about this? I believe in this. Is this something that uh, is under that, umbrella or something? That was the only time that we ever like talked like that, was in theology, was in like
Yeah.
religion. Um, Other than that, nobody ever brought anything into the classroom. All of the
Nope.
teachers are so professional, and I was just kind of like, I'm blown away by stuff that's happening in middle schools and high schools. And um, I actually dated someone who was in the Air Force, and I live in a military town, and it's I mean, I dated someone in the Air Force. It's a military town, and like here's where like if you go into this Air Force into the service, you have like boot camp here. So so he was stationed here, and I met him here, and he would tell me that like when he's stationed in other places like California, or he has to go there for TDY or something, like they'll spit on members of the military.
Wow.
They'll protest outside the bases, and I'm just like, holy are you kidding me? That's terrible. Who does that? But
Right.
now that you're saying like they're taught that way, and it's just kind of like it sounded horrible when I heard that. But I was just like, who does that? How are these people existing? They allow them to do that? You
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to be spit on? Like that's just what they believe. They don't like the military. They think that we're, baby killers, whatever. It's just like, what? Do they not understand that? They don't understand what the military is, what y'all are really truly doing, and that's just how they are, I guess. I'm just like, wow. Because here it's just kind of like graduation every Friday. You see them out with like their families and everything. You just thank them for their service, like thank you for your service. It's very much, you're proud of your military. Proud that they're, because it's voluntary. It's all voluntary.
Do you are you familiar with James Lindsay?
Mm-mm.
So he's a political commentator. He's very I wouldn't even call him that. He's more like an intellectual. He's similar to like a Jordan Peterson type guy.
Okay.
Very smart, extremely learned, really knows what he's talking about. He wrote this book called Cynical Theories with this woman Helen Pluckrose, who's from England, and they basically detail essentially the infiltration of the education system in America. They focus mostly on colleges,
Mm-hmm.
but they basically he details essentially how it was infiltrated, how the curriculum, all different departments eventually kind of got absorbed by this thing like the blob. And basically it's this, he tracks it back, and Jordan Peterson tracks it back to like these French philosophers in like the 60s, like Foucault, I think. And these people, I'm not the scholar on this, so I don't really know. But essentially what these people did was, the ideas behind socialism, the 20th century was the best lesson that they don't really work, right? It's just not, there's so many countries, so many failed socialist states. It didn't work. Well, they weren't quitting once that became true. So what they did was they started to evolve their ideas, if you can call it that, evolve their ideas in this thing called critical theory. And critical theory is essentially just a critical lens on all of Western history. So it would be like everything that all the West's accomplishments, all the things that we pride ourselves on, the actual true liberation, rights for all, and all the progress that the country's actually made. Well, they take a cynical look of or critical look of all of that, and essentially they've started this new educational style and this new educational philosophy, and it really started to take hold in the 60s. That's when you see like the radicalization, like the hippies and all that.
Yeah.
But they didn't go away, and they managed to institutionalize themselves in our colleges for the next, until now. And they're still very much there, and it's spread so far. And it's a really fascinating insight into exactly what these schools of thought are, where they come from, and why it's so incredibly nefarious and dangerous, because it's anti-Western. And it's extremely racist as well. Like, it has a very strong racial component because they focus heavily on certain races that were prided. I mean, they go so far as to say that, America was founded for the proliferation of white men only, and everyone else was as a subsidiary of that, or some negative, very cynical view of history. And it's a terrific read if you ever get the chance. I like to listen to stuff like that on Audible. But for me, it was just a searing insight. I was like, oh, like, God, that makes so much sense. It just connected so many of the dots, like whether it's what happened with Star Wars, whether it's what's happening in the colleges, whether it's like why there's so much unrest and why there's so much anti-American sentiment from inside the country itself, where it all comes from. It's such a good book. Can't recommend it more.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good. And like I said, like this whole, the whole media collapsing and becoming propaganda was really my insight into all this. That's when I started doing any of this investigation, because it was so all over the place. It was everywhere you went. I mean, and also I lived in LA, so it's like living in like Berlin in the 40s. You know what I mean? I'm right there.
I'm sorry
zero.
that you had to live in LA.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I moved there. I was 26, and I was living in New York City. I was like a coastal elite liberal. You know what I mean? Like I was sure we had all the right ideas, and I didn't question them. Thought conservatives were stupid, and obviously, I had this really. And then when I moved to California, I was like, whoa, like you guys are crazy. Like these ideas, it's so aggressive. And there's like so many of the ideas, and all of a sudden you have all these problems with me because of my race. Like I can't have opinions. I can't say anything. I was like, what's going on? Like I was like, y'all are about to turn me.
You're a white man. You can't. Of course not. No. You
can't
be
even speak.
Quiet and apologize.
Shut up. You shut your mouth.
You just be quiet and apologize for even existing.
Exactly. You just take it. It's like, it was nuts. I'm like, y'all are about to turn me conservative. You know what I mean? Like I can't pay for Obama. Like I can't believe this is happening. Like, that's how nutty California is, man. They go hard.
I can't even imagine. I've been to California a few times, but like I've never experienced anything like that, and I would not want to go to LA. Never.
I don't recommend it. People, I talk to people, and I don't wear all my points of view on my sleeve all the time, because it's just too complicated.
Yeah.
But people will be like, oh, I'd love to go visit LA. I was thinking about visiting LA, and I like delicately try to be like, maybe wait a few years, see if they sort their shit out, because the homeless problem in Los Angeles is like, until you witness it, you can't honestly believe it. Like, people like to be like, oh, those are just exaggerations. Those are just the worst areas. I'm like, okay, even if that was true, those pictures are horrific, but it's not. It's like everywhere. Like, I lived in a nice area of LA. I lived in
Hmm.
the valley in a little area called North Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
Like, right by like Studio City, which the property values there are insane. It's such an expensive place, and under every single highway overpass, and LA's got quite a few, every single one is just the filthiest homeless encampments lining both sides of the sidewalk, just like ingrained filth on a level you can't even comprehend. And
Yeah.
it spreads. Like, I during the pandemic, there was an abandoned building next to my place. I guess they wanted to tear it down and renovate it. They were doing so much construction, and then during the pandemic, I guess that got halted, and so homeless people would just start taking up residence in this place, you know. And then every once in a while, they just have to get kicked out, but it was constant. And then there was this woman.
Uh-oh.
There was this woman who camped outside of basically out of my window, and I just had like single pane windows, so it didn't really knock the noise out. And all night long, I heard her doing this. All night long. Like, hearing that
Oh my
noise, to be
God.
woken up to that sound, it's maddening. Like, it drives you crazy. Like, it's so disgusting. Like, she's retching, essentially. You know, she's like,
How is she allowed to stay there? Okay, so I would hear stories about California, right? And how like people would be living in houses and on the sidewalk would be like a homeless person and you can't kick them out because it's like against the law or some shit like that.
yeah.
And I'm just like, how is that not against the law? How are they just you're paying all this money to live here and you have a homeless in your front yard. You have a homeless on your sidewalk and you can't
It's
do anything about it. How is that allowed to happen?
I can't even understand it. I called the police, you know, like not 911, but I called like the non-emergency line, and I'm just like, can there be anything be done about this? Like, she's squatting on private property, and she's like, you know what's going on. I got my hands tied, you know, because it was like right after, you know, the BLM and stuff. The cops couldn't do anything, you know, like Eric Garcetti just basically was just like, yeah, no, the cops can't do anything. They won't arrest anybody, you know. And so it was just like I had to just suffer through that. So I had to just play white noise in my apartment all the time. I just play like the rain on like, you know, YouTube. They have these 24 hours like streams of just rain. Just had to blast it all the time so I could just drown out that sound so I could sleep.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Isn't that terrible?
That's awful. I can't imagine like living in that situation.
Dude, my apartment was like $2,000 a month. Like, I was paying a lot, and all the other taxes and fees and stuff that you pay to live in Los Angeles. And also, like, my place was a bargain, and it's just like it's so expensive. I'm like, I'm paying all this money to live in this environment. Are you guys out of your minds?
Yeah.
Yeah, that place. I mean, sinking ship.
Yeah. See, I visited San Diego a few times, and I didn't see like a lot of homeless, except for like when I was driving like on the highway and stuff and on the underpasses, like you saw a lot of it, a lot. I took photos because I've never seen that before. Oh my God! I just unplugged my earbud. Hold on.
Oh.
I had never seen that before. Like, I legitimately didn't think that was. I thought people were exaggerating, you know. And even in San Diego, it wasn't a lot. Like, it wasn't a lot, like you're describing. Like, I can only imagine how bad it is.
Bad.
And like the videos that I see, like on Twitter and stuff, of the homeless out in the sidewalks, doing drugs and all this stuff. But like I didn't see much of it, but I did see it, and I was just kind of like blown away by it. And it's kind of like the person I was with is just kind of, don't look at him. They'll come to the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to just pretend they're not there because they'll beg and they'll panhandle.
Yeah.
And apparently, like in New York, and I guess especially during the pandemic when the cops were low, like they started getting very aggressive. You know, they started like demanding things, threatening people, attacking people. I mean, you've heard like, you know, there was some like 20-something-year-old woman who got murdered in just a retail store. Some nut came in there and stabbed her. And it's really sad. And it goes back to like the cynical theories thing and all this sort of socialist mentality because, and I read a book about this. It's called San Francisco. It was written by this guy who's a former progressive. And he wrote this book about the homeless problem. And near as I could gather from reading this book is that essentially in these institutions, like in these governments, whether it be Los Angeles or San Francisco, whatever, it's all these like, activisty type people, and their sort of the official point of view is homelessness is a symptom of capitalism. So like there is like it's just part and parcel, just comes with the territory. That's how they view it. So any solution that's actually dealing with the real problem is sort of in opposition to their belief, their worldview. So that's why they just don't heal it right. That's why they don't address it correctly. They don't address the fact that it's mostly mental illness and drug addiction. That they can't look at it like that, because if they do, that would force them it would force them to admit that their part of their philosophy is bullshit. So they just keep pushing harder and harder and harder, and they get really wacky. Like once those solutions don't work, well then they're saying, well, we can't fix homelessness until we fix racism. We can't fix homelessness until it's like it's so out of control and run amok that it's like that's why I wrote that whole state off. I was like, wow. I'm so gone. Yeah, it's like you can't reason with people like that. They won't have discussions. You just have to leave.
That's terrible. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what Austin's becoming now.
Austin,
that's why we're kind of like abandoning Austin right now. All the Californians are moving to Austin.
It's true.
Hi, Matt, Californian.
That's me. I mean, technically, I'm a New Jerseyan, but
that's true.
I did come from California, so I'll take it. There is a lot of that leftist mentality here. It's pretty widespread. It's at least in the circles and the communities that I've run in the year and a half that I've been here. It's unsettling, But I will say there's certain things that I do appreciate. The homelessness problem is not nearly as bad, not even close. It's like 10% of what it was in LA.
The fact that it exists, though.
Agreed.
The fact that, because here I don't see any of it. Mm-hmm. None of it. There's nothing like that here. But you drive through Austin and you see it, and it's like, what the heck? Yeah. Why is it? Why does it exist? It doesn't exist here. It doesn't exist. I don't see it in Dallas. I don't see it. When I was in Houston, I saw, I don't know, maybe one or two. But you see it a lot in Austin. And it's like, why aren't they dealing with it? I don't understand that.
Because they create shelters for it. They enable it. I mean, in San Francisco, they give them apartments and they give them money, essentially, which is like a death sentence to someone who's like addicted to fentanyl or heroin or something like that. You basically just gave them the keys to their own death, where you're supposed to give them something to work towards and a reason to get out. They basically just guarantee that their demise. So Austin has similar policies. They're not as bad because they don't allow like the public camping. When I first moved here, it was bad. I was like, Jesus, this here too? Like I live off Riverside, and the whole main stretch of Riverside was like there's like a lawn in the middle, and it was all just all homeless. And then a few months after I moved here, they put in the proposition to make sure you can't do that anymore, basically. So they pretty much, I don't know if they moved them, but they got rid of all the tents. So that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, but it's real. I mean, it's definitely here in Austin for sure. Ultimately, though, like other than like the social friction of just being around so many leftists, I don't really have much of an issue living here. Like my cost of living is very manageable. The price of stuff, I mean, I guess there's a pretty big inflation surge right now, but that's, everyone's dealing with that. But for the most part, it's like a cool enough place to live in that regard. There's lots of enjoyable things to partake in, but yeah, it is one of those things where I'm like, this isn't exactly paradise. I'll get you up here though. I'll find like an appealing enough offer. You can come check out.
I know, because I've told you I'm not going to Austin. No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll get you up here. But I mean, I still haven't been down to San Antonio, so
that's true.
I haven't even seen that town, so.
I don't like Austin at all. It's like, I'll drive through Austin to get to a place where I'm going, but I won't stop there. I used to love going to Austin. I had South by Southwest. They had like some really good barbecue, some like really good food, different beers at 6th Street. I used to love going to Austin. Now I'm just kind of like, away.
I don't blame you, but the food is still really good and the beer is still really good, and that has actually been growing. Like the beer the beer culture here is something like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I've never seen a city with such like a love for great beer, and there's new breweries all the time. And I actually have like a food and drink channel where I do some of that kind of content where I talk about that stuff. And this is a great town for that kind of thing. And the good thing for you is you get to leave at the end.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I just can't. Oh man, I can't stand Austin anymore. I just can't stand Austin.
It's so activisty, and that's the thing. They get
Yeah,
everybody.
that's why. It's like I don't want to go there and just like have to roll my eyes at every other person that I hear say some stupid shit.
I don't blame you. I mean,
I
they
know.
get people so spun up with this activism stuff.
Mhm.
They prey on people's emotions and they get them believing this bullshit, and that's they basically just turn them into foot soldiers for life. You know, now they're lifelong fight the power. This imagined, white supremacy thing that's just everywhere. It's around every corner. Leave no stone unturned. Find all those Nazis. It's like you guys live in a fucking dream world, man.
Absolutely. Like here, everybody just keeps to themselves, and that's what I love about it. I used to say like, San Antonio was like a big city with a small town feel, and it's always felt that way. And you can always feel the surge of people moving in when you're driving. That's when like you really notice like, oh yeah, we just got a wave of people right now. You can feel it moving in when you're driving around places. But when you're shopping, sometimes when you're shopping, you can kind of feel it. But like for the most part, people are just like extremely nice, extremely kind, good mannered, well mannered. You say thank you and all of that. And it's just kind of like a small town. People leave you alone. They just leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wearing a shirt, they don't like if you're wearing like a MAGA shirt or a Let's Go Brandon shirt or even like a Biden shirt, Biden supporter shirt, whatever. They don't say anything to you. There's nothing. You don't say anything. People leave you alone.
I feel like that would not happen to me. I see less Trump stickers now than when I first moved here. Mm-hmm. It's also regional. I mean, the city isn't like one mass. It's like in different parts of the city, especially up north, you'll see a lot more like you feel the conservative, you know what I mean? Which is like, I always feel more comfortable around that, but it's like, I'm just like, okay, they don't hate me automatically. That's good. But it's like, I did see like the I will not comply shirts and stuff. But that was one of the other things that drew me to Austin more than just anything, is that compared to California, it was so lenient. I mean, bars were open. Like that was when I visited here in February of 2021, and I was like able to go to a bar. I had to wear a mask, couldn't sit at the bar, whatever ridiculous thing was in place, but I could do it, and that was a huge step up from California. California wasn't there yet. Nothing was open. You had to go. It was like living in fucking China or something like that. You know what I mean? You go to the mass, like even at the grocery store, no one's talking to each other. Everyone's all super nervous. It was a horrible environment to be in. Like I'd be outside in a park, no mask. People are looking at me like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to drag my ass to prison if you're going to ask me to wear a mask outside. It ain't happening. I'm just not doing it. So you guys crazy people, think whatever you want. I'm
a lot of times I would just go into stores without a mask, mostly because I forget to wear it. It's such a new thing, and wear your mask. Okay, this store doesn't mind if you don't wear a mask. This one you have to wear it. This one doesn't. You don't have to wear it. It's such a new thing that I would just forget, and nobody would say anything. There's only been one time where they asked me to put on a mask, and it was actually like last month at the dentist's office. Oh, and yeah. I was like, really? My mouth's gonna be like open in like 10 minutes, but I have to wear it like right now. And it's so funny because I went back like a couple weeks after that, and they like lifted it. You don't have to wear one. They didn't care. Because it's stupid. It's stupid. Like I have to wear it out here, but it doesn't exist back there where I'm going to have my mouth open for however long this cleaning lasts.
Yeah, well, like three people are in the room. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. That makes no sense. The only place that I feel like when I went to the dentist, this was like 2 weeks ago, they said I had to, but no one was, and no one enforced it. So I was like, okay, obviously I'm not doing this. The only place I think, like if I went to a hospital, I would be like, okay, you know what I mean? Just because there are dying people here. So I'm like, okay, I will wear a mask here. Other than that, though, it's like I haven't seen it in a long time, but when I first moved here, there'd be places that would ask me to wear a mask. I'm like, Not going there.
It was so funny because I was just like, you could tell that nobody had told this lady anything. They just mindlessly put on a mask. That was it.
I still see them now.
Because she was so shocked when I said something to her, and she's just like, but you have to. You have to. We make you wear a mask because of COVID. It is still alive and present. And I was just like, but not back there, right? Where I'm going to have my mouth open. Just like, and she was just like stuck. I was just like, okay. But it was so funny when I went back like 2 weeks later. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I still see people around here wearing masks. I can't believe it. I can't believe people would voluntarily.
Yeah, I still see people wearing masks in their car sometimes. And I'm just kind of like, they must be from California. That's what I think all the time.
That's
like they must be from California.
I used to date this girl for a little while when I moved here, and she's just a little wild. She had like kind of rainbowy hair and like a little mullet, and she's kind of like a metal chick. And she told me this story about one day she was driving her car, and some guy was like, "Go back to California," and she's from like the Houston area, and she fucking snapped. She did not like that accusation at all. She's like this tiny little thing too, like all she could do to attack the guy. It was just like,
that's so funny. She's like, how dare you?
What? I'm from Texas. Yeah. Well, Steph, that was really fun.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on here. This was great. You're the first guest on the MFer.
I'm honored. Thank you.
It was very nice to have you. What have you got coming up?
Well, I restarted my YouTube channel after taking like a 3-month break. I took a break for a while. But I'm pushing out content again. So yeah, I'm just making more videos. And then still streaming on Twitch. Hopefully like maybe I need to stream more on Twitch, but I've been so busy.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I have going on. Just actually restarting my YouTube channel again.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. I haven't taken a break since I started, and I could totally see how it would be very mentally healthy. Vigilante took a little break for him, and I think that was really good. He took about like a month or two off, and he just kind of got out of all of it, didn't really watch videos or streams, just sort of, just went back into the matrix for a while, which I was like, I think that's good. If you need the time, take it.
Yeah, I think at the time I was just like, there's nothing I want to talk about right now. Because it's kind of like you had your heart broken. It's like, geez, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
I can't stand seeing all of these things that I love just going down the drain. And I like support everybody and listen to a lot of their stuff. But I was just like, I'm too depressed to talk about it. Like, it's just not, I don't want to talk about it. But now I'm kind of like reinvigorated and I want to talk about it again, talk about things again. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing again. Hopefully I'll edit my videos a lot better. But for now, I'm just kind of getting back into the groove of it.
Cool.
So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, check out Steph's channel. Links are below. You can get to her Twitch and her YouTube in the description down there. And you know me, Cocktail Lounge every Friday. Although I guess next week, not this coming Friday, but the following, we're going to be in Vegas. So maybe I might grab, hopefully get Vigilante to guest host for me.
Are you going to live stream in Vegas?
I wasn't planning on it, but I don't know. Are you?
Yeah. Live stream from your phone.
Yeah, I'll probably do it from my phone at the gathering for a little bit because that's probably gonna be wild, man.
Oh, I can't wait! I cannot wait. Yeah, live stream from your phone.
All right, I'll live stream from my phone. If you guys if I don't, you guys and Steph will call me a liar. So I can't have that on my conscience. So I will do some live streaming outside of the event. I might be a little drunk, but
that's
I will
even better.
Yeah, be nice and loose. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Please press like, subscribe to my lovely guest here. If you're not subscribed to me, please do so. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much. And thank you, Steph.
You're welcome.